We now turn and recognize a member of the full committee, the gentleman from New York, Mr. Weiner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. McKay, I wonder if we're all on this panel not saying essentially the same thing, and that is that BP shouldn't be in charge of anything in this operation anymore. That Mr. Scalise and many on our side have said in different ways there's very little credibility that BP has in telling us what's going on. The numbers have been wildly underestimated, as Mr. Markey's questions earlier pointed out. It is pretty clear that you're conflicted when it comes to settling claims with people who have been victimized by your negligence. You don't want to pay. You want to pay less. So they want to get more. It seems that your control over the access of the media to the location, you're conflicted. You want to portray this in a certain way. Members of the media want to try to find out whether you're telling them the truth or not. And that even people who have expressed frustration with the president basically are saying, why do you trust these guys to do anything? You should get in there and do it yourself. And I think that it comes down to this basic notion that was reinforced today when the four gentlemen to your right basically said that a well-managed company that was doing things responsibly wouldn't have had this problem because they would have taken the information that Mr. Waxman and Mr. Stupak released yesterday. They looked at it and said clearly that corners were cut and that there's no credibility in even the basic elements of how this thing was done. And I wonder what you would say to the American people who open up the newspaper and say, well, BP says, ... why any of it should be believed. Like, what have you done to establish any level of credibility here? Even your supporters, even the people who will go to their political ends saying drill, baby, drill, even they're saying, hey, the president is responsible because he trusted those knuckleheads at BP. I mean, I don't understand why on any level going forward you all should be in charge of anything. So let's go one by one. Why should the claims process be under any control of British Petroleum? Why shouldn't we just take the money that is going to be paid out in claims in the billions of dollars and give it to someone independent of BP to say which claim is legitimate, which one is not? Why should BP have it in their control at all over what claims they pay?
We have been very clear from the start we're going to pay all legitimate claims, so that's point one. Point two is we've set up a claims network.
Who do you think should determine who's legitimate?
We're following OPA guidelines under OPA 90.
Do you believe that BP is conflicted in all in deciding whether or not BP should pay money that BP is going to have to pay to victims? Do you think you're conflicted at all?
Not entirely.
You know, I think that walks the line actually being a rhetorical question. You're clearly conflicted. Let me ask you about access to the media or experts on trying to learn what's really going on there. Now, there have been some reports that in the process of trying to get access, you had to check, a member of the media would have to check with BP whether to get access to the largest environmental disaster ever created by BP. Now, do you think that you're conflicted at all in having any decision-making role at all about whether BP should be able to give access to an environmental disaster created by BP?
Well, I'm not familiar with the protocol for access. That goes through Unified Command. So
under no circumstance should any member of the media or any expert who wants to try to get the information themselves ever have to call BP to get clearance to do it?
No, I didn't say that because they may be acting under instructions of Unified Command. So I don't know. What I'm saying is I don't know the protocol.
Well, whether someone somewhere thinks that you should have that is not the question I'm trying to get into now. What I'm trying to understand is whether under any circumstance, anywhere in the decision tree, should be anyone who has been so horrible at making decisions. I mean, the one thing we know from this hearing with metaphysical certitude is that BP created this problem through their own negligence, through their own cost-cutting, through their own corner-cutting, and it's not just someone like me who believes that we should be reducing the amount of drilling that we're doing. It's the gentleman to your right who believe you should be doing more of it, and even they say you've done that. So the question is, in this entire context, why should the American people, at any time when it says BP says ... not immediately take up the newspaper and throw it over their shoulder because there's no credibility on it? And if we don't believe that there's credibility, why is there any decision-making left in your hands? And I think, Mr. Chairman, you know, what we have here is that there are opportunities now for us to not remake the same mistake over and over again. If we know they're conflicted about being truthful with information, any access to the media, any access of experts or the American people to what's going on there should not go through BP. If we know they're conflicted about wanting to understate costs, that's the basic element of a corporation, wants to take in as much as they can, give out as little as they can, why is there any role to play in claims? And then becomes, why should there be any decision-making ability on your part at all here? And that's one thing my Republican friends who want to criticize the administration for not doing enough, maybe we agree. Maybe we do need to have BP involved in a heck of a lot less anything to do with our environment, anything to do with our citizens going forward. Because while you're sitting here saying over and over again that we are going to play all legitimate claims, my question is who determines legitimate? And I think it should be the American people, not you. And I yield back, Mr. Chairman.